The living room buzzed with excitement, a cacophony of laughter and chatter filling the air as my family gathered for what they called a special occasion. The projector hummed softly in the corner, casting a warm glow that illuminated the faces of my siblings, their smiles bright and carefree. My heart raced with anticipation, a flutter of hope that perhaps this time I would be included in the cherished moments they were about to share. I clutched my drink tightly, feeling the cool glass against my palm, a stark contrast to the warmth of the room as I tried to shake off the creeping feeling of unease creeping in. As the slideshow began, the first image flickered onto the screen, a sun-drenched beach my family captured in a moment of joy. I leaned forward, heart pounding, but as each slide changed, I felt the air thicken around me. I searched each frame, desperate to see myself reflected in those memories, but with each passing picture, my heart sank deeper. Laughter erupted around me, a chorus of joy that only amplified my isolation. It was as if I was a ghost in my own home, unseen and unheard. The uncomfortable silence that followed my absence was palpable, a heavy blanket of confusion settling over me. My siblings exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from joy to awkwardness as they seemed to realize my absence in those precious memories. I felt my cheeks flush with embarrassment, a mixture of disappointment and a deep-seated betrayal washing over me. Why wasn't I included? Did they not value my place in their lives? I glanced at my mother, her face illuminated by the screen, but her eyes were distant, lost in nostalgia for a past I was not a part of. As the last image faded and the applause echoed through the room, I was left standing there, a hollow ache in my chest. The moment was meant to celebrate our family, yet it had only highlighted my exclusion. I swallowed hard, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill over. I wanted to scream, to demand to know why I was left out, but instead I forced a smile, hoping to mask the turmoil inside. The laughter continued around me, but I felt like an outsider, trapped in a painful reality that I had to confront. What was I supposed to do now? I wanted to feel included, to be part of the family I loved, yet the reality of my absence loomed larger than ever. The emotional stakes were rising, and I knew something had to change before I lost myself completely in this painful rift. My heart raced as I contemplated the confrontation that lay ahead with my mother, the truth that needed to be addressed, and the weight of unspoken words that hung in the air like a dark cloud. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of roasted chicken and fresh herbs, a comforting scent that usually enveloped me with warmth. But tonight, as I sat at the table, the familiar surroundings felt alien. The clinking of silverware and the hum of casual family chatter only amplified the turmoil brewing inside me. My heart raced, a tight knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted irreparably. My mother's laughter rang out, bright and carefree, but I felt none of that joy. Instead, I was consumed by a suffocating anger, a resentment that had quietly festered over the years. As we gathered around the table, I glanced at the old family albums stacked in the corner, their pages yellowed with time. Memories of happier moments flickered in my mind, birthdays, holidays, times when I felt like I belonged. But now I couldn't help but think of the slideshow, the painful exclusion that had been laid bare. I wanted to confront my mother about it, to demand answers, but the thought sent chills down my spine. What if she dismissed my feelings? What if this confrontation pushed her further away? Mia, are you even listening? My brother's voice snapped me out of my reverie, pulling my attention back to the table. I forced a smile, nodding even as my heart sank. I felt like a stranger among my own family, the weight of my unspoken feelings heavy on my chest. The laughter around me felt like a cruel joke, a stark reminder of my absence in the cherished moments that defined us. You should come to the next family gathering, it'll be fun, my sister chimed in, her enthusiasm clashing with my internal chaos. I wanted to scream that I wasn't invited to those gatherings, that my presence didn't matter. Instead, I clenched my fists under the table, my nails digging into my palms as I battled the urge to shout. The fear of losing her love paralyzed me, keeping me silent as the tension built within. As dinner progressed, I could feel the distance between us growing. I glanced at my mother, whose eyes sparkled with pride as she shared stories of my siblings' accomplishments. Each word felt like a dagger, a reminder of the love I craved but never seemed to receive. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation that loomed ahead. I needed to speak up to reclaim my place, but the fear of her disappointment weighed heavily on my heart. Would I be brave enough to face the truth? The table was a battleground of emotions, and I sat there, caught between sadness and resolve, knowing that I had to confront my mother about the wounds that had long gone unaddressed. The air was thick with anticipation, and I felt the urgency of the moment pressing down on me, urging me to act before it was too late. After the family gathering, I retreated to my quiet bedroom, the walls closing in around me as I struggled to process the emotional whirlwind swirling in my chest. The faint scent of lavender from the diffuser did little to calm the storm within. I tossed my phone onto the bed, its screen lighting up with messages from my best friend Emma, who had sensed something was off. I hesitated, feeling the urge to reach out for support, battling against the weight of my shame and anger. My heart raced as I recalled the laughter that filled the room just hours earlier, laughter that felt like it belonged to a different world, one where I was absent. My mind drifted back to the slideshow, each image a sharp reminder of my exclusion. I remembered the moment my absence was acknowledged, the awkward silence that hung heavy in the air, punctuated only by the sound of the projector flickering. It felt like a betrayal by those who should have cherished me the most. The ache in my chest intensified, and I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms as I fought against the tears threatening to spill over. Why couldn't my family see how deeply their actions affected me? I wanted to scream, to demand recognition, to be acknowledged as part of the family fabric they so effortlessly wove around each other. I took a deep breath, my determination rising against the tide of frustration. I needed to confront my mother, to discuss the wound that had been festering for years. The thought of the upcoming family dinner made my stomach churn. What if she dismissed my feelings again? But I couldn't allow fear to dictate my actions any longer. I had to reclaim my place, even if it meant facing the uncomfortable truth of our family dynamics. I envisioned the conversation spiraling into accusations, her dismissive tone echoing in my ears. "You're being dramatic, Mia," I could almost hear her say, her words cutting like glass. But I wouldn't let her words silence me this time. I would stand my ground, voice my hurt, and shed light on the injustice of being overlooked. I picked up my phone, fingers hovering over Emma's name, debating whether to reach out for reassurance. Would she understand the turmoil I was feeling? As I finally pressed send, a sense of resolve washed over me. I was tired of being the silent observer in my own life, tired of feeling like an outsider in my family's narrative. Emma replied almost instantly, her supportive words a balm to my frayed nerves. I felt a flicker of hope igniting within me, a reminder that I didn't have to face this battle alone. Together, we would navigate the tumultuous waters of familial love, betrayal, and the quest for belonging. The determination to confront my mother solidified within me, an ember I would carry into the family dinner. I wasn't just fighting for recognition, I was fighting for my worth, for the acknowledgement that had long been denied. My family would have to see me, understand me, and finally acknowledge the impact of their actions. I would not back down. I was ready to break the cycle of silence and demand the recognition I so desperately craved. The coffee shop was bustling with life, the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the sweet scent of pastries. I sat at a small table, the wooden surface cool against my fingertips as I nervously tapped my phone, waiting for Emma to arrive. My heart raced, a mixture of hope and anxiety swirling within me. I needed her support now more than ever, especially after the recent family gathering that had left my spirit crushed. Each moment replayed in my mind like a haunting melody, the painful silence that had engulfed me when I realized my absence in the slideshow. When Emma arrived, her radiant smile cut through my turmoil like a beacon. She settled into the chair across from me, her presence a comforting balm. "You look tense, Mia. What's going on?" she asked, concern etched on her face. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my emotions threatening to spill over as I recounted the events of the evening. It felt like I was invisible, Emma. They shared so many memories, and I wasn't part of any of them. "It's like I don't even exist in their eyes," I admitted, my voice trembling as I fought back tears. Emma reached across the table, her hand warm and reassuring as it enveloped mine. "You're not invisible. You're just not being seen for who you are. Have you thought about how to bring this up with your family?" Her question hung in the air, heavy with the reality of my situation. I hadn't truly considered how to approach the topic with my family, fearing their defensiveness. I sighed deeply, feeling torn between wanting to mend the fractured relationships and the fear of what that conversation could unleash. I want to talk to my mom to tell her how I feel, but I'm so afraid of how she'll react. What if it just makes things worse? I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. Emma leaned in closer, her eyes locked onto mine, filled with unwavering support. "You deserve to be heard, Mia. It's not going to be easy, but you need to fight for your place in the family. It might not go perfectly, but at least you'll be standing up for yourself." Her words ignited a spark of determination within me, a flicker of hope that perhaps my efforts could lead to a breakthrough. Yet the memory of the previous night loomed large, casting a shadow over my aspirations for reconciliation. I felt the tension in my chest tighten again as I contemplated the complexities of my family dynamics, the unspoken pain that had lingered for far too long. What if they reject me even more? What if my mom just brushes me off again? I questioned, my voice heavy with doubt. Emma squeezed my hand tighter, her grip a silent promise of solidarity. You're not alone in this, Mia. Just remember that no matter how they react, your feelings are valid and you deserve to express them. You can do this. As we finished our coffees, I felt a sense of clarity washing over me. I wasn't just seeking peace. I was seeking my truth, ready to confront the discomfort that had long been buried beneath layers of denial. With Emma's encouragement, I resolved to face my family, to push through the fear and uncertainty, determined to reclaim my place and voice in the chaotic tapestry of our lives. The road ahead was fraught with challenges, but I was no longer willing to remain silent. I would confront my mother and express the pain that had been festering in the shadows. I would seek understanding, even if it meant facing the truth that had been hidden from me for too long. In the quiet solitude of my bedroom, I sat cross-legged on my bed, a notebook perched on my lap, its pages filled with scribbles and half-formed thoughts. The faint scent of lavender from my diffuser lingered in the air, but it was overshadowed by the turmoil swirling within me. Each word I penned was an attempt to articulate the storm of emotions that had been brewing since the family gathering. I needed to confront my mother, to express how deeply her actions had affected me, yet the thought sent a tremor through my body. Could I really face her? Would she listen? I flipped back through the pages, my heart racing as I read the notes I had jotted down. The phrases felt heavy with meaning. I want to be seen. Why wasn't I included? Each line a reminder of the pain I had endured. My hand trembled slightly as I traced the words, the weight of them pressing down on my chest. The idea of finally voicing my feelings filled me with both a sense of empowerment and a paralyzing anxiety. What if my mother dismissed me again? What if I was met with defensiveness instead of understanding? The reflection in the mirror across the room caught my eye, and I hesitated, staring at the woman looking back at me. I could see the uncertainty etched on my face, the shadows beneath my eyes betraying the sleepless nights spent wrestling with my thoughts. I straightened my shoulders, trying to project confidence that I didn't fully feel. "You can do this, Mia," I whispered to myself, the words trembling on my lips. I recalled Emma's encouragement from our coffee shop conversation, her unwavering belief in my right to express myself. I took a deep breath, letting the air fill my lungs, reminding myself that I was worthy of being heard. I had to reclaim my narrative, to break the cycle of silence that had haunted our family. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across my room, I made a plan. I would gather my thoughts, rehearse the phrases that felt so vital, and approach my mother with honesty. I imagined the scene unfolding, my heart pounding, my voice shaking, yet filled with a fierce determination to confront the painful truths that had long been buried. I envisioned her reaction, her face shifting from surprise to defensiveness, but I knew I had to press on. With each stroke of my pen, I felt a sense of resolve building within me. This moment was crucial. I was not just fighting for acknowledgement, but for my place in our family's story. I would not be silenced any longer. As I closed the notebook, the weight on my chest felt a little lighter, as if the act of planning had started to ease the burden of my emotions. I was ready to face my fears, ready to confront the woman who had shaped so much of my life, even if it meant stepping into the unknown. A solid estar estava envolta emum silêncio tenso, as perdes decoradas com fotos que percham zombar de mim. O cheiro familiar do café fresco e das flores murchas, no vosso sobre a mesa so intensificava a angústia em meu coração. Eu podia sentir meu corpo vibrar com a adrenalina de minha confrontação, as palmas úmidas enquanto respirava profundamente, tentando me preparar para o que estava por vir. O contraste entre a luz suave do dia e a escuridão que se formava dentro de mim era quase palpável, reflexo do conflito que estava prestes a eclodir. Me precisamos conversar sobre a orientação de família, minha voz su mais firme do que eu esperava, cortando o ar pesado na sala. Ela ergueu os olhos, misto de surpresa e defensividade dançando em seu olhar. O jeito como ela franziu a testa me fez sentir calafrio, mas a determinação dentro de mim era mais forte do que o medo. Eu não estive presente em nenhuma das memórias que vocês compartilharam. O que isso diz sobre mim? Eu me forcei a manter o contato visual, mesmo quando Roman 6 expresso de la se transformar em uma máscara de negação. Minha vocer sabe que isso não é acute verdade. Vocer tem suas próprias memórias, suas próprias experiências, ela retruco, se tom sabendo tom de reprovação, como se minha dor fosse irrelevante. Meu estômago se apertou, uma onda de raiva sabendo pela minha garganta, como ela podia ser tão insensível. A lembrança das roçadas e das fotos que não incluía meu rosto me atingiu como soco, e eu não pude evitar que a frustração transbordasse. Mas eu não estou incluída, e eu sou invisível para vocer e para todos. Gritei as palavras sendo turbilhão de emoção. o ico de minha voz per charesser nos perdes, princendo o espaço onde antes havia apenas silencio. O coração acelerado e a respiração ofegante eram reflexo de battle que eu travava dentro de mim. O momento era crucial, e eu precisava que ela visse a verdade, mesmo que isso significasse abrir feridas que nunca haviam cicatrizado. Ela hesitou a defensividade seu olhar começando a vacilar. Mia, não é cute assim que eu vejo vocar. Vocar sempre foi parte da nossa família, mas, sua voz falhou, e eu percebi que tinha a chance de finalmente ser ouvida. O medo de perder sua citação ainda estava lá, mas acima disso, eu queria a verdade. Eu queria que ela entendesse a dor que sua indiferença causou. Com essa percepção, eu me preparei para o que poderia ser o momento mais importante de minha vida. Eu não estava apenas lutando por reconhecimento, mas pela minha própria identidade dentro da dinâmica familiar que tanto me machucou. In the aftermath of the confrontation, my home felt like a hollow shell, the silence stretching between the walls like an unspoken agreement to avoid the fallout. The air was thick with tension. I could almost taste the bitterness lingering from the harsh words exchanged. I sat curled up on my bed, the familiar comfort of my room now tainted by the weight of unresolved emotions. My heart ached as I replayed the heated argument with my mother in my mind, each accusation echoing painfully, reminding me that the rift in our family had deepened rather than healed. I glanced around the dim room, the soft glow of the desk lamp illuminating the scattered remnants of my life, old photos, books with dog-eared pages, and the remnants of my childhood. Each object felt like a ghost of the family I once knew, a family that had become a mere memory in the wake of my painful revelation. I picked up my phone, scrolling through my messages until I found Emma's name. My fingers hovered over the screen, the urge to reach out battling against the fear of reliving the pain. After a moment, I pressed send, hoping to find solace in her supportive words once more. "Hey Mia, how did it go?" she replied almost instantly, her concern palpable even through the screen. I hesitated, unsure of how to articulate the chaos that had unfolded. I took a deep breath, my pulse quickening as I typed back. "It didn't go as I hoped. We ended up arguing and now things feel worse. I don't know what to do next." The vulnerability of my words hung in the air, a reminder of my own fragility. Emma's response was swift and reassuring, reminding me that I wasn't alone in this tumultuous journey. I felt the familiar warmth of her friendship wrap around me, a stark contrast to the coldness that pervaded my family dynamics. As I read her words, I began to formulate a plan, a way to confront the emotional turmoil that had plagued me for so long. I envisioned gathering my family, creating a space where we could all express our feelings openly, challenging each other to understand the wounds we bore. Yet the thought of facing them again filled me with dread. What if they were still defensive? What if the cycle of hurt continued? I clenched my fists, the determination within me beginning to rise like a phoenix from the ashes. I would not back down. I was ready to fight for my place in this family, to demand the acknowledgement I had long been denied. As I scribbled down my thoughts in my notebook, the ink flowing freely, I felt a sense of clarity emerging from the chaos. I would confront the pain, not just for myself, but for the family I yearned to understand and be understood by. The journey ahead would be challenging, but I would face it head-on, ready to break the chains of silence that had bound us for too long. The atmosphere in the living room felt different this time, charged with a mix of apprehension and tentative hope. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting long shadows that danced across the floor, illuminating the space where we would face the truth. I could smell the comforting scent of homemade lasagna wafting in from the kitchen, yet it only deepened the sense of unease settling in my stomach. My heart raced as I glanced around the room, noting my family's tense expressions, each face reflecting the weight of unspoken words that lingered in the air like a thick fog. As we gathered around the dining table, the clinking of plates and silverware sounded more like a countdown to confrontation than a prelude to a meal. I could feel my palms sweating, fingers trembling slightly as I gripped the edge of the table for support. My mother sat across from me, her eyes guarded, yet I could see a flicker of vulnerability beneath her stern demeanor. I took a deep breath, summoning the courage that had been building within me since our last encounter, ready to lay bare the wounds that had festered for too long. "I need to talk to you all about the slideshow," I finally said, my voice trembling but determined. The room fell silent, the air thick with anticipation. My siblings exchanged glances, the tension palpable as I continued. I felt invisible that night, like I wasn't even part of this family. It hurt to see all those memories without me in them. I want to understand why I was excluded. My mother's expression shifted from surprise to defensiveness, her lips pressing into a thin line. "Mia, it wasn't intentional. She started, but I cut her off, my voice rising with emotion. but it felt intentional. I've always felt sidelined, like my place here doesn't matter. I want to be seen, to be part of our family. My heart raced, each word spilling out like a torrent fueled by years of pent-up frustration. A heavy silence enveloped the room, and I could see the realization dawning on my siblings' faces. My sister finally spoke up, her voice soft but firm. "We never meant to hurt you, Mia. We just didn't realize how you felt. We thought you were okay with things the way they were." As my mother's expression softened, I felt a glimmer of hope spark within me. Perhaps this confrontation could lead us to a place of understanding, a bridge across the chasm that had grown between us. I looked around the table, focusing on each of their faces, feeling the weight of our shared history and the possibility of healing. "I just want us to be honest with each other, to acknowledge the pain we've caused one another and to work through it together. Can we do that?" The words hung in the air, a fragile yet powerful declaration of my desire for connection and acceptance. The air in the living room felt lighter, infused with a cautious optimism as we sat together, the remnants of the confrontation still echoing in our hearts. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the space where I had fought for my voice, casting a warm glow that felt almost like a promise of healing. I glanced at my family, their faces reflecting a mixture of relief and uncertainty, as if we were all navigating uncharted waters together. A nervous laughter broke the silence, and my sister awkwardly attempted to lighten the mood. "So, who's ready for dessert? I made your favorite, Mia." Her smile was bright, but I could see the apprehension in her eyes. It was a small gesture, yet it felt like a step toward rebuilding the connections that had frayed over the years. I nodded, a flicker of joy igniting within me, appreciating her effort to bridge the gap. As we shared the dessert, I felt a sense of camaraderie begin to form, the laughter gradually becoming more genuine. I watched my mother as she engaged with my siblings, her laughter ringing out, no longer tinged with defensiveness. I realized that perhaps this was the essence of family, navigating through the pain, acknowledging our flaws, and striving to understand one another. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of acceptance wash over me, a warmth that chased away the lingering shadows of doubt. I was no longer just a spectator in my family's narrative. I was part of it, my presence acknowledged and valued. My heart swelled with gratitude, not just for the shared laughter, but for the courage we had all shown to confront the unspoken truths that had bound us. As the evening drew to a close, we gathered for a family photo, a new memory in the making. I stood between my siblings, their arms around me, and I felt a sense of belonging envelop me like a warm embrace. The camera clicked, capturing not just our smiles, but the essence of a family rekindled. We were still a work in progress, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the journey ahead, ready to embrace the complexities of our relationships with open arms. Looking at the photo later, I realized it wasn't just a collection of faces. It was a testament to our resilience. Each smile reflected not only joy but the acknowledgement of our shared struggles, a reminder that love, though complicated, was worth fighting for. I had reclaimed my place in the family, and with it came a renewed sense of purpose, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead together. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I would no longer shy away from expressing my feelings, but rather embrace them, navigating the beautiful messiness of family life with hope and determination. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue across the living room, I sat among my family, a sense of warmth enveloping us like a cozy blanket. The remnants of our earlier conversation lingered in the air, a gentle reminder of the emotional journey we had traversed together. Laughter spilled forth, a sound that felt both foreign and familiar, echoing off the walls that had once contained so much tension. I glanced around at my siblings, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the lamp, each smile a beacon of hope that we could navigate this complex web of family dynamics together. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of acceptance wash over me, a realization that our journey toward understanding was just beginning. The memories we had made that evening were not merely snapshots on a screen. They were threads woven into the fabric of our family, binding us closer together. I recalled the pain of exclusion, the weight of unspoken words, and how confronting those truths had opened the door to healing. My heart swelled with gratitude for the courage we had all shown, not just in voicing our feelings, but in listening to one another with empathy and compassion. I understood now that family was not merely about shared memories. It was about the willingness to embrace the messiness of our relationships. We were imperfect, but we were striving to be better, to acknowledge each other's worth. As I reflected on the path that lay ahead, I felt a renewed determination to continue this journey of openness and honesty, to cherish the connections we were forging, and to confront any challenges that arose with courage. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my past lift slightly, replaced by a sense of possibility. It was time for me to step into my power and encourage others to do the same. If my story could inspire even one person to confront their own family dynamics and seek understanding, then it would be worth every ounce of pain I had endured. As I closed my eyes, I made a silent vow to be a voice for those who felt unheard, to stand tall in the face of adversity, and to remind everyone that love, though complicated, was always worth fighting for. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell.